Hi everyone, my name is Audrey and welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing you an October and November wrap up. So at this point, we're already in December. As of today, I did not upload or finish editing my October wrap up. Now it's time for my November wrap up. So what I'm going to do is just combine both of those videos in the same video. I'm going to use the footage I did for October, so I'm not going to re-film all of that part. I'm just going to insert it in here and then I'll continue on with November. So enjoy my October wrap up. I'll see you right after.
Everyone is watching, but I still feel so alone, alone. And I've been waiting on a miracle, but by the time it comes, I'll probably be stoned or on my phone. Oh no, now I'm sure that you have got the perfect positive quote to say, but I don't want your optimism today. I just wanna complain. It takes a whole damn hour to afford 2 gallons, and I'm not doing enough. Another day, another challenge. I woke up one day and the world was cold. Feel like I'm way too young to feel this old. I got a hole in my heart that keeps getting bigger, so I'll try to fill it up by rooting in my liver. I'm a poster child, millennial. Feel like I'm way too young to feel this old. Oh, 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 yeah, yeah. Oh, 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 yeah. Everyone's invited to this pity party in my head, my head. And I'll cry if I want to, and I want to, but nobody's listening. So I'll just hide away instead. I'm sure that you have got the perfect positive thing to say, but I don't want your optimism today. I just wanna complain. It takes a whole damn hour to afford 2 gallons, and I'm not doing enough. Another day, another challenge. I woke up one day and the world was cold. Felt like I'm way too young to feel this old. I got a hole in my heart that keeps getting bigger, so I'll try to fill it up by rooting in my liver. Keep on trying to do things that require soul. Feel like I'm way too young to feel this old. Oh, 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 yeah, yeah. Oh, 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 yeah. My parents don't get it, and they don't give me enough credit. My friends, I'm broken. I've tried and I can't stop smoking. My fears are growing, and my learning curve is slowing. I got no friends, and I'm broken. It takes a whole damn hour to afford 2 gallons, and I'm not doing enough. Another day, another challenge. I woke up one day and the world was cold. Feel like I'm way too young to feel this old. I got a hole in my heart that keeps getting bigger, so I'll try to fill it up by rooting in my liver. I'm a poster child, millennial. Feel like I'm way too young to feel this old. Oh, 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 yeah, yeah. Oh, 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 yeah. I remember when my mother would kiss me goodnight and tuck me in, and we would pray together. I recall a day a stranger had told me to not let my smile fade when the world was prettier. Oh, my innocence is gone, and I feel the cold front on its way now. I remember when the devil on my shoulder told me there'd be a day where I might suffocate. Running fast, pressure's on, and I can barely breathe. I said goodbye to the days of playing hide and seek. Running fast, pressure's on, I need some air to breathe. Can't go back to the days of playing hide and seek. Yeah, I don't know when an enemy came by and planted an evil seed. Oh, if only I could find a way to rid the fear that's grown inside of me and taken over me. Oh, my innocence is gone, but my flame is going strong. Won't let it suffocate. Running fast, pressure's on, and I can barely breathe. I said goodbye to the days of playing hide and seek. Running fast, pressure's on, I need some air to breathe. Can't go back to the days of playing hide and seek. Yeah, yeah. Let me go, let me go, let me go. I'm suffocating. Let me go. I'm suffocating. I'm suffocating. I'm suffocating.
I don't think any of you will be surprised to know that I only read 3 books in the month of October. I did try to push more books, but our family was going through a lot of things during October. It was not the best month for us, but I still managed to read 3 great books and with great ratings. So, just for that, I'm quite happy with what I've read. So, without further ado, let's get into the books. So, as usual, I always participate in the buzzwordathon, and for October, the buzzword was elements. So, any word from elements that was in the title. So, for this prompt, I had a lot of books to choose from, and I ended up reading With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. So this follows a young teenage mom who is trying to balance her own life. She has been raised by her abuela. She is half Puerto Rican and half Black, and she's trying to find balance between her passion for cooking and raising her own daughter and dealing with family, and with all of that trying to provide for her family and work, as well as finishing her high school studies. So she's going through a lot of things in her life, and I thought it was a very interesting thing to get into the life of a woman of color who was struggling and dealing with that type of situation. It's not something I've read before, and I believe this book was more targeted towards a YA audience, but I still really enjoyed the reading. So I really liked the characters, the writing, and the format in which it was written in. So the chapters were really, really small. On my reader, they were about 3, 4, 5 pages tops. So I can imagine that the physical book must have been half the number of pages compared to the ebook. And I really love when the chapters are quite quicker and smaller. It does add a lot to the pacing. And for this type of book, I think it just suited the book well. It also had some cooking a recipe and twist in the formatting of the book and the writing style, which I really enjoyed. And the thing that I loved the most of this book is how it was very positive for young teen moms who are struggling with being a mom as a teen and trying to finish their high school. And I think it's a very positive book, especially for women of color. Obviously, I'm not an own voice for that community, but from what I've sensed, it was great representation. I feel like it really had a great balance between all aspects of her life, which I thought was really well done. And what I've enjoyed the most is really the cultural aspect that was so ingrained in the writing itself. It was a major part of the writing of the story, and it's the part that I enjoyed the most. I thought it was very, very culturally immersive, and I just really enjoyed learning more about her culture and where she was from and how she deals with that culture and being in the United States as well at the same time, and how does she transfer that culture to her own daughter. And I thought it was really interesting, and her not having to put aside all of her passions just because she's a teen mom, that I really appreciated, because I was not a teen mom, but I am a mom, and I have been told things, for example, to put aside my passions because I was becoming a mom and I needed to make space for my son, which I do agree at a certain point, but at the same time, not really. And I think it's not true that you need to stop everything you like just because you're becoming a parent. It never made any sense to me, because your child is going to adapt into the life you're going to give them, and having your own passions is actually being a really good role model for your children. So I really appreciated the positive representation in this book. So overall, I gave this one a 4 stars out of 5. The second book I finished in the month of October was Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. So this book is a retelling of an East Asian fairy tale, and it follows Shiori, who is a daughter of this emperor in this land, and she has six brothers. She is the youngest of her siblings, and her mother died a long time ago, and her father remarried, and she doesn't get along with her stepmother, and she actually finds herself witnessing something she wasn't supposed to witness, and her stepmother has magic and she curses Shiori as well as her six siblings. So Shiori cannot talk at all. She cannot use her voice, and her siblings are now cranes during the day, and they become a human during the night, or vice versa. I'm not sure. I don't quite remember, but they are turned into cranes. And if Shiori uses her voice or talks about her curse, her brothers are going to die one by one. So it's her journey trying to lift the curse and find out what's actually happening. So this is my Fairy Loot edition I got from one of the few Fairy Loot boxes I've treated myself during last spring because of my birthday, and it's a gorgeous edition. So overall, I really enjoyed this story. I thought it was different and quite interesting to see her go through that journey. I thought it was very mysterious to why she was cursed. The writing was quite enjoyable as well. I did have some issues with the pacing towards the middle point of the book. It does read like a YA, so if you're not into YA retellings of fairy tales, I don't recommend this one. But if you don't mind that type of writing, I do recommend it. And I don't know how I feel about the twist of this story. I did think at first that this book was only a standalone, but how this book ended, it's not going to be a standalone. It has to be a first of a series, duology, or a trilogy, or something like that. And I did I did check on Goodreads, and I believe it's going to be a duology. I was a little disappointed with that because I was hoping it was going to be a standalone. And the twist was quite interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about the twist, but I'm very interested in how it's going to go in the second book. So I don't know how to give you more detailed thoughts, but I don't want to get into spoilers, obviously. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that part, but I still really enjoyed the writing and this book in general. I think I really love reading about other cultures, fairy tales, and folklore. So I really enjoyed this one for that reason. And I gave this book overall a 4 stars out of 5. And finally, the last book I read in October was Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. So I read this book for Halloween. I've heard amazing things about this. I did see this book around a lot and it was really intriguing to me. And I haven't really read much horror books besides Stephen King's from when I was a teenager. But I didn't explore much in the genre of horror. So I was really excited to pick up this book and I had a lot of expectations for this book. As you can see on the cover, it's a IKEA-esque type of book, so it's not mixed media, but it does have a different formatting. And I really love when books have different concepts to them. So this one really was in that category. So this is set in a IKEA ripoff store called Orsk. So it's supposed to be a knockoff of IKEA, and strange things are happening in the store, and some employees just spend the night so they can find out what's actually happening. I have to be honest, I did not expect to read what I read in here. I think it's really well done. I really enjoyed the writing. At first, I was confused because I thought it was supposed to be a horror, and I was not scared. I was not freaked out, creeped out at all the first third of the book. I believe it was around page 120 ish, around that time where I really started getting freaked out. I don't want to talk too much about this book because I think it's best if you go in not knowing too much. I don't think this book is for everyone. Grady Hendrix has a very specific type of writing, so it may not be for you, but it does take some very strange and very, very weird turns. I know a lot of people did not enjoy the ending because it does have this open ending. I really enjoyed it and I really appreciated the ending, so that didn't bother me. And I know that some people did not care at all for the characters, that they felt they were flat and not relatable, which I can understand because this is not a character driven type of story. I think the best way to get into this book is just go into it without knowing too much and just go for the ride and don't expect anything at all. That's kind of how I approached this book. I did have expectations, but once I was in the ride, I just trusted the author to do what it was supposed to do. And I think it was really well done. And with what this book was trying to do, I think it didn't matter at all for me that we didn't relate to the characters, because I believe, here's my theory. When you relate to the characters and they die, it's devastating. But this is a very short book, so it's hard to actually get that invested into the characters. And when you do relate to the characters, you know that they are not going to die in the end, and it's pretty obvious. And not being able to relate to them, I believe it does add to the horror aspect of the book, because you actually really cannot trust what's going to happen and if they're actually going to survive this journey. And I do believe that for this concept, it was quite relevant that the characters were not relatable, if that makes any sense. But yeah, if you're interested in this book, I do want to give you some trigger warnings for body horror, torture, violence, death, drowning, claustrophobia. I think that's it. But yeah, there are some trigger warnings in this book, so be wary of those if they are triggers for you. But yeah, I highly recommend if you like weird and strange things. And in some way, it did remind me a little bit of Stranger Things without the 80s aspect of it. I give this book 5 stars. So those are the books I read in October. I am way behind my Goodreads challenge. So at the end of October, I had 15 books to read to actually meet my goal, which means I need to read 7.5 books in November and December to actually reach my goal of reading one book every week for 2021. I still believe that it's achievable and that I can actually do it if I put myself to it. We'll see how we do in the next 2 months. So for November, it has been a really, really tough month for us. So I ended up reading a total of one book. Yep. I thought January was going to be my worst month ever because I only read one book in that month. But it seems that November just wanted to be equal to January. I even technically just about finished the book because I finished the last 30 pages on December 1st. So it's kind of a bit of cheating, but yeah, I don't care at this point. I'm just going to put it in November and it still counts in my opinion.
Hey, new eyes that made my life. You made full of surprise. Staring you under the starlight. You, my heart feels so right. You are the one for me tonight. I will never let you down, and I will never let you go. Anytime under the sunshine, always try to stand alone. This whole world I can't go on, but you and me is holding on. There you go. You have shown me something I never know. Promise me you'll never let go. Between high and low, we are one, and let them know. I will never let you down, and I will never let you go. Anytime under the sunshine, always try to stand alone. This whole world I can't go on, but you and me is holding on.
White lights call to me, illuminate my city. And all I want to do is find a place where it will be so dark I can't see. I'll let the music guide me. I'll see through silence and follow it to some reality. And now to feel alive, and all the flashing colors fill inside my mind. At night I feel alive, and all the flashing colors feel inside my mind. I breathe and close my eyes. The music animates me till I'm out of time. A paradise never turns to black and white. Let's make time to tomorrow. For doing nothing. At night I feel alive, and all the flashing colors feel inside my mind. I breathe and close my eyes. The music animates me till I'm out of time. A paradise, and I feel alive, and all the flashing colors feel inside my mind. I breathe and close my eyes. The music animates me till I'm out of time. A paradise never turns to black and white.
So the book that I read was The Night Tiger by Yangzi Chu. This book was recommended to me from Books and Law, I believe. It is set in Malaysia in the 1930s. It follows two main characters. The first one is a young boy of 11 years old, and he just lost his master. He just died. And in this culture, there's this superstition that if you die and some parts of your body are missing within the first 49 days of your death, you will transform into a tiger and your soul will wander off forever. So this little boy Ren tries to find the lost finger of his former master and tries to accomplish his master's final wish. And we also follow Jilin, who is a young adult, and she works for a dance hall to pay off her mother's debts. And one of her clients had a finger in a glass jar in one of his pockets, and mysterious things are going on. There are some people that dies, and there's connection between all of the characters involved. And this book was really, really interesting. I thought that the premise was really original. What I liked the most of this book was really the immersion of the culture, of the Malaysian culture. And I thought it was really, really interesting. And considering that it's also in a historical fiction because it is set in the 1930s, it was interesting to learn all about the British occupation in Malaysia during that time and what happened historically in that area, which I was not aware of. So I thought it was really interesting to learn about that. I obviously am not an own voice for this culture, but I did feel really immersed. I feel like it did a really good job for letting me into their traditions and their views and all of that. So I really enjoyed that part. I did enjoy the characters a lot. And another thing that I really loved is that there is magic involved in this, but it's very subtle and it kind of mixes old beliefs and superstition, and it's just so subtle as a magic system that you can't really talk about a magic system if that makes any sense. And I thought it was just perfect because as a reader, I felt like it could really be believable and it could really happen in life. And I love that it wasn't over the top and that it wasn't a really fantastical type of world. So I really enjoyed how subtle it was, but still really important to the story. there was a lot of mysteries involved in the characters, in the plots, and what was going on, which was done really well, in my opinion. What I didn't like as much is that some of those mysteries were not resolved in a manner that satisfied me. So it was there was a question of the five people named after five virtues, and there was a connection between all of those people. What bothered me was that at the end we still don't know why it was that important. Like, we do understand that there's a connection between all of them, but we don't really understand why. It just happens, and there's nothing much to it except that there's a connection. I don't know how to explain it, but I felt like it could have been developed a little bit more in depth, and I wanted more from that part in that mystery. And it's also a very open ending, which I usually don't mind. I love open endings, don't get me wrong, but this one, some of the endings were I was fine with, and other endings was just underwhelming, because usually when you do open endings, you do have throughout the text, the book, you do have some hints towards like where the character is going to go and which way the character is going to go towards. And depending on how you read the book and how you perceived the character. But in some of these endings, there were no hints to what might happen afterwards. So that kind of bothered me as well. But overall, I really, really enjoyed this book and reading this. I loved the writing, the characters. I think it's still very worth the read. So I highly recommend you pick it up. I rated this book 4.25 out of 5 stars. So yeah, that's all I read for November. I'm kind of disappointed because I do have a lot to read if I want to finish the end of the year with my Goodreads goal to read one book every week, which means I'm like behind 10 or 11 books, which is a lot for me. It's a sprint till the finish line. I am going to have 2.5 weeks off from school, so hopefully I can get a lot done there. We'll see how it goes. Wish me luck. So that's it for me. If you have read any of these books, please let me know in the comments if you agree with my opinion, with my review or not. Let me know how your November and October reading months went, if you have been struggling as I was struggling or not. Thank you so much for watching. Like, hit the subscribe button if you want to, hit the notification bell if you want to be notified every time I upload a new video, and I will see you soon in another one. Bye!